Chapter 36. Ashton.
Ashton was walking with Gary, who had his hands in his pockets and kept looking away. Where are we going?
We're just going to walk up and down Elmway for a bit. Here, come this way.
Gary turned down an alleyway. Where are you going?
Just trust me. Come on. I wanted to show you something.
So Ashton followed his friend down the alleyway. Then Gary turned to face Ashton with an intense stare. "Dude, you're creeping me out a little," Ashton joked. But he really was starting to feel uncomfortable.
Creeping you out? Why would I creep you out?
Gary said with a light smile. "Look, I don't want to be in a dark alleyway at night," Ashton said, starting to turn away. "Let's go." Gary grabbed him by the shoulder and shoved him against the wall. "Hey, what are you doing?" Ashton said, shoving him off. Gary grabbed both of Ashton's shoulders this time and pinned him to the wall.
Listen to me. I need to talk to you in private. I know there are surveillance cameras all over that stupid store.
Ashton's eyes went wide. What is this?
Your friend Felix there is after you. She's bad. You need to stay as far away from her as possible. Do you understand?
What do you know about her?
Look, she's evil. She never loved you. She was after something else.
She's not evil, Gary. And she did like me. I don't necessarily know if she loved me, but she wouldn't throw her friends against walls. Get off me! Ashton tried to shove Gary away, but Gary did something that scared Ashton to death. He pulled out a knife and held it up to Ashton's face.
I need to ask you some questions, so stop struggling and just listen.
Gary, what has gotten into you? We've been friends for years. You would never do anything like this.
Well, maybe you don't know me as much as you think. Now talk.
Talk about what? I have no idea what you're talking about. It's like you've lost your mind or something.
Ashton, you have 5 seconds to tell me, or I'm going to have to do something that'll confirm that I've lost my mind.
Ashton tried desperately to pull away, but couldn't. That's when someone came out of nowhere and tackled Gary to the ground. It was too dark for Ashton to see who it was. Ashton grabbed the chance to get away and took off running down the street. All the shops were closed and locked tight. The closest place was the grocery store, so he ran there and fumbled with his keys. He got inside, locked the door, and headed straight for the office. As he was running, he patted his pockets. Where was his cell phone? It was gone. Never mind that. He knew there was a telephone in his office. He shut and locked that door too, and tried to dial, but when he put the phone to his ear, there was no dial tone. Ashton started up the computer and waited anxiously for it to turn on. Maybe he could get into contact with someone through that. But then he found that there was no internet access. What was going on? He made one last desperate attempt at getting the phone to work by pulling out and plugging in the cord in the back. But when he held the phone to his ear, it was of no use. He put the phone down and backed away. Ashton didn't know what to do. He couldn't keep his hands from shaking. About 3 minutes later, he thought he heard someone knocking on the glass front door of the shop. There was no way he was coming out of the office. Gary would see him through the windows instantly. The knocking started again, and he slowly sat down on the floor behind the desk in the dark room. He was there for a long time, deciding to wait there until he thought it was safe to leave. But he had no idea when that would be. Why had everything gone so wrong? What did Gary want? As though his heart wasn't already pounding hard enough, it practically stopped when he heard the bell go off above the main door. The only other person who had a key to the store was Gary. Ashton quickly got up and looked around the office. He found the bat on the wall that Mr. Henderson had pulled out that day Calvin had paid a visit to the store. It was a signed bat that Ashton had gotten when he was a boy, and it had been hanging on the wall in the office for years. He gripped it tight in his hands and stood beside the door, ready to swing when Gary walked in. He couldn't believe he was going to do this to his friend, but he had no choice. Ashton heard the knob jiggle a few times. It sounded like someone was messing with the lock. And then the door began to open very slowly.